If you don't know about these day 3 NFL running backs, you're just not going to win in fantasy football in 2025, but I'm here to help.
It's Short King summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King summer.
We absolutely have to begin with Bhayshul Tuten. There's really no way around it. He went to perhaps the perfect landing spot with the Jacksonville Jaguars, where the depth chart is incredibly thin. He ran a 4.3240 at the combine. He had a 40.5-inch vertical, a 10-foot, 8-inch broad jump. All of those categories place him in the 95th percentile or better amongst running backs. He also posted a 90.4 PFF rush grade his final season at Virginia Tech. Now, I can hear you at home, right? I've fallen for these round 4, round 5 running backs before. I think this situation is quite a bit different for two reasons. The first one being, we clearly saw in this NFL draft class, some teams just believed there are so many good running backs. Well, there's just no reason for us to spend a third-round pick on one. Not to say that the third-round running backs were no good. We're all very excited about R.J. Harvey. But being a fourth-round pick, going 104th overall, I'm not really viewing that as a bummer at all in the case of Bhayshul Tuten, who was awesome at Virginia Tech, right? After transferring from North Carolina A&T, not AT&T, where he was also quite good. He dominated the backfield his final season, a 94% dominator rating, and the Sims are quite kind to him as well. Cam Akers, Jamal Charles, his new teammate Tank Bigsby, Lamar Miller, Tevin Coleman. A lot of these guys were hits with lower draft capital. I mean, even guys like Will Shipley, who were hanging around, Isaiah Spiller, these guys have not been hits, but they've stuck on an NFL roster. Let's just take a look at our guy Travis Etienne and his performance for the most recent 2 years. He has been awful. In 2023, it was all volume, 3.8 yards per carry. 2022, he was quite good. 2024, he was brutal. Tank Bigsby was one of the worst running backs in the entire NFL in 2023. Much better last season. But I think that Bhayshul Tuten at pick 104 with that 4.3240 and his awesome final season production at Virginia Tech, right away, he is one of my absolute favorite values at the running back position in fantasy football. And I'm not going to let being a fourth-round pick make me scared of him in any way, shape, or form. I think eventually what we will see happen is Tuten will probably begin the season as Etienne's direct backup. And I think we see Etienne really fade off because ever since he got that Lisfranc injury, he really has just not been the same. Now, next up, we have my boy, Cam Skattebo, who goes right after at pick 105 to the New York Giants. Now, we all know the deal with Skattebo. Didn't run at the combine, did post good jumps at the combine. Not quite as athletic as Tuten, but better than you would expect. Most people assumed he probably would run slower than a 4.7, but his college statistics, his final year at Arizona State, 4.09 yards after contact average. That's phenomenal. 1,200 of his rushing yards came after contact, 103 forced missed tackles. Now you can see his breakaway percentage very low. In fact, he had many games without a breakaway run at all. That's not really his skill set. For the New York Giants, I think they're hoping that Tyrone Tracy is going to be that guy. Skattebo also a phenomenal receiving back, 111 career receptions, 1.95 yards per route run as like a high volume running back. His final year at Arizona State is particularly strong. And the thing that I like the most about him was there was a chance he was going to be an undrafted free agent. I mean, look at some guys like Ollie Gordon or DJ Giddens who really fell in the NFL draft, where we clearly got perspective from NFL teams that for whatever reason, they did not buy their collegiate production. But I think this is huge for Skattebo actually to be a fourth-round pick and to land in a really uncertain depth chart. I think people sort of forgot because Tyrone Tracy was so good as a rookie. We're talking about a guy who was a sixth-round pick. We're talking about a guy who was a converted wide receiver. We're talking about a guy who never had a 1,000-yard rushing season in college. I think there are real reasons to be skeptical of Tracy's production profile and real reasons to think the Giants I mean, at this stage with their weird quarterback room, Dart, Jameis, Russell Wilson, they might just want a guy who's going to get 4 yards in a cloud of dust. Maybe not 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but one of Pro Football Focus's highest graded overall rushers. And the Sims are maybe not quite as bad as you would think for a guy who is not fast and a 4th-round pick. We have Bigsby, we have Duke Johnson, we have Rashad White, we have LaShawn McCoy. In fact, I think the mental comp that I'm going to use the most is actually Rashad White, a guy who is not going to be a super efficient rusher. I don't imagine we're ever going to see Skattebo average 5 yards per carry in the NFL, but he's going to be really competent on passing downs. He's going to be great at the goal line. And for what the Giants might want their running back to do, I think there is a real argument Skattebo is going to be better at that than Tyrone Tracy. Next, we have Jarquez Hunter from Auburn, who is a little bit of a weird prospect for me to evaluate. A 4-year guy when he was at Auburn, a guy who was always productive, but maybe not uber productive. Didn't play a ton in 2021, 59% running back dominator rating as a sophomore at Auburn, and then a 77 dominator rating his final season. Was involved as a receiver, but you would not call him a great receiver. Compare him to Skattebo, his final season, 0.73 yards per route run. But he goes to a spot where we have just learned running backs are valuable, and the Rams always take running backs, right? Kyren Williams was someone that we were not expecting to ever be a big part of the Rams offense. They had Cam Akers. They had Darrell Henderson when they took Kyren Williams. When they had Darrell Henderson, they drafted Cam Akers, right? We have seen the McVay system move on. Now, we do know Sean McVay absolutely loves Kyren Williams. They take Blake Corum last year. Corum basically could not have been less involved in the Rams offense had they tried. The mean return for a running back who was drafted where he went, I mean, it's actually kind of unbelievable to think that he went 83rd overall for a team that almost made the NFC Conference Championship game, and all he was able to do was 58 rushes, 3.6 yards per carry, 7 receptions, no touchdowns. They got absolutely nothing out of Corum. So my question with taking Jarquez Hunter, who is a big volume guy who handled volume all his years at Auburn, 232 and 243 rushes in back-to-back years. Is this more about the fact that Kyren Williams' contract is done at the end of 2025? Is this more about thinking that Corum is not capable of being the running back too? Is it a combination of both? I expect Hunter is going to be very cheap in Best Ball Mania. He's going to be very cheap in your 12-team home league. In fact, he probably won't even get drafted in your 12-team league. But it is not going to surprise me at all if we get to the Rams preseason games and Hunter's getting rested. We're throwing, maybe we even get a series of Corum while Hunter is over, drinking Kool-Aid with Tutu Atwell on the sideline. And I think that the sim score comps for Hunter are right about what you'd expect. Bilal Powell, who is a career backup running back, but had stretches in fantasy where he was awesome. In fact, do you guys remember Bilal Powell? This is kind of neither here nor there, but he stayed in the NFL for 8 seasons and just hung around for the Jets and contributed. I think that's a good comp. I think Michael Carter is an interesting comp. And then how about that? Blake Corum as a comp. That is very interesting to me because I think it suggests that the Rams have a type, and I think they know and are going to get exactly what they anticipate out of Jarquez Hunter. And I'm going to guess that he is far too cheap for the odds that he's actually the Rams running back too in the 2025 season. Next up, we have a fascinating player, Ollie Gordon, who got Heisman votes in 2023. And look at this 2023 season. Ripped off 100-yard game after 100-yard game, did struggle in this random game against UCF, generated 68 missed tackles forced, generated 3.71 yards after contact, average a 54% breakaway rate. What happened to him in 2024? I'll never know. 29% breakaway rate, down to 3.25 yards after contact average, down to 41 missed tackles, was way less effective as a receiver, 0.77 yards per route run. His PFF grade as a rusher went from 90.4 to 70.6. I think that is pretty clearly why he fell all the way to the 6th round instead of being a 2nd or third round pick. But no team has a need for a big bodied running back the way the Miami Dolphins do. I think that we saw in 2024, Devin Achane is better used as a lightning to a thunder. They tried to use Jalen Wright as a thunder. The Jalen Wright thunder didn't work. And the team, I think, probably had high hopes for Jalen Wright. As a team with a lot of needs, they selected him in the 4th round, 120th overall. He actually got a start last season, but only averaged 3.7 yards per carry, a 39% success rate, was not really able to do anything in the passing game, which is fairly interesting. So my read on the situation is that Mike McDaniel in the front office looked at Ollie Gordon. They said, this dude's huge, 226 pounds. Our offensive line, one of the worst in the league last year. We don't want Devin Achane getting smashed in between the tackles. We want Devin Achane running tosses. We want to throw Devin Achane screens. We want to run cool plays for Devin Achane. We want to try and get the guy who at 19 in the Big 12 ran for 1,700 yards, had 73% of his team's rushing production, who went absolutely nuclear and contributed as a receiver, by the way, 39 receptions. So I don't think Ollie Gordon is a 0. I don't think he's a plus receiver, but I also don't think he is a 0 there. I think that they are hoping that they got the 2023 version of Ollie Gordon, and that's a wide open depth chart. I mean, first off, we have seen 2 Dolphins running backs finish as top 10 assets in fantasy football. This is a team that doesn't really have a third wide receiver. This is a team who might not have Tyreek Hill. The running backs and the fantasy points available in the Miami Dolphins backfield is going to be absolutely massive. My guess of the situation is that Ollie Gordon is going to have every opportunity to beat Jalen Wright out in camp for that running back too. And I would assume at this stage of his career, he's better than Alexander Mattison. But I think signing Mattison in and of itself is probably an admission from the Miami Dolphins that just having Achane in the backfield is not going to cut it. And I think the Sims show that as well. A bunch of guys who have the ability to be productive, but never quite made it. I mean, Mike Davis did make it. Wayne Gallman had a great run the year that Saquon Barkley got injured. Also some clear zeros in this range, right? Spiller, Ryan Nall, Eno Benjamin, guys that we hung around on our dynasty rosters forever. We do see David Montgomery pop up in here, Tank Bigsby, Arian Foster. How about that name? Oh, Arian Foster. That'll get the juices flowing. But as a true last round pick, I'm going to find it hard to not gravitate towards Ollie Gordon as like a 6th running back on a lot of my best ball rosters. I just cannot get that 1,700 rushing yard, 21 touchdown, 90.4 rushing grade season out of my head as it pertains to Ollie Gordon. You guys know we were not going to get out of doing this list without talking about 7th round pick to the Kansas City Chiefs, Brashard Smith. His first ever year playing running back. He transfers from Miami of Florida, where he was a wide receiver, had fewer than 20 rushes at the University of Miami, and had over 70 receptions. Clearly was a bit part wide receiver, and actually not a terrible wide receiver, and you can see that with his receiving influence. His final year, 51 targets out of the backfield, 1.69 yards per route run for Brashard Smith. His first year playing running back generates a 90.3 offensive grade, generates an 87 run grade from PFF. Weirdly, for a converted wide receiver, I mean, I think you have to say he was a good after contact runner, playing for an SMU team that way overperformed, a 3.34 yards after contact average, forced 52 missed tackles, a 43% breakaway rate. And in some of their biggest games, he was awesome. 23 for 109 against Clemson. 17 for 63 against Penn State. You might be saying, Davis, that's terrible. Penn State, he does nothing. I mean, was the most big boy defense that they played. He did awesome against Florida State. He did 5.4 yards per carry against BYU. I think that Brashard Smith is a very real prospect. Now, do we want to go way overweight on a 7th round pick who lands on a crowded depth chart with Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Elijah Mitchell? I don't think so. But there is a long history of us, over investing in these running back 3 types on Kansas City. I mean, do you guys remember Darwin Thompson? Do you guys remember Deneric Prince? I think we probably have the heir to the Deneric Prince throne from last year, but The big difference is I don't really think there is an incumbent on this Kansas City Chiefs roster. Pacheco is coming back from the injury. Elijah Mitchell is getting paid absolutely nothing, $3.5 million, a $1.5 million for Kareem Hunt. I'm not telling you to go overboard on Brashard Smith, but what I do feel fairly confident in is that the team wants to get back to the Jerick McKinnon role. They used Samaj P. Ryan in that role last year, and actually Samaj P. Ryan caught the ball against in the AFC Conference Championship game that got them to the Super Bowl. However, they want some explosion from that role. I mean, we've heard that time and time again from Reed, from Mahomes. They want more explosion in this offense. I think your best case scenario for him, year one, is kind of as a Nyheim Hines plus. He's a little bit bigger than Nyheim Hines, and actually, I think probably a little bit faster than Nyheim Hines in terms of game speed. I like Brashard Smith, and obviously I'm being a homer a little bit there, but there's a clear role there. We have some honorable mentions in terms of running back threes, Kyle Monangai, but we're going to get some more into that on the streams here on the channel. So if you liked that analysis, make sure that you like the video. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you never miss a video, so that you never miss a scream. You can check out patreon.com/DavisMattek for more fantasy football content. And if you want to draft with me, make sure that you're using promo code DAVIS, DAVIS, on Underdog. Get your first-time depositor bonus. Get a free pick in the Pick'em lobby. And I will see you guys in the streets all summer long.
It's Short King Summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short